Thank you, Richard. Again, my name is Jim Capretta. I'm a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Here in Washington. And I want to thank the CIC for sponsoring this event. I think it's really, obviously, incredibly timely and very, very important. And I'm certainly pleased to be here with Richard and Kyle, who are truly experts on this. I want to pick up a little bit on what Richard described as the context and how this came about, but go at it from one particular angle. The debate that has occurred over the last week is really centered very rightfully around the rights of religious organizations that are being told that they have to violate their collective conscience and provide coverage for contraception and sterilization and abortifacient products that run against the beliefs of their faith. That's obviously a huge issue, violating the rights of those organizations and the church. But you know, lost so far in the debate, maybe it's going to come back, I think is even a more important question is, how did we get to the point where the government was allowed to do this for the average citizen anyway? For the average Catholic who out there working for a private employer that doesn't have any religious affiliation whatsoever, they're being told by the government through this requirement that they too have to pay premiums into a plan that covers all of these things, and there's no right whatsoever to get out from under it. There's no talk of an exemption. There's no even contemplation in the administration toward the religious liberty rights of the average citizen. And this is a very big deal. There will be tens of millions of people who forevermore in the United States, if this is allowed to stand, will be forced every 2 weeks in their paychecks to pay for a number of things that they find objectionable. Now, how did we get to the point where this happened? As Richard indicated, there have been bandied about for the last 2 decades amendments that were considered in Congress at various points to actually impose a contraceptive mandate on insurance products of various types and kinds in various formats. And as Richard indicated, those usually stalled for a lot of the reasons why there are objections to what's being taken place now. However, in the context of the gigantic healthcare bill that passed in 2010, there's a whole slew of things now that the government can do. This is one of them, but it's not the only one. The delegation of massive, massive amounts of power to the federal government is really remarkable. And this is, I would think, one of those watershed moments where the public is getting a glimpse into what is coming. Just the specter of religious people having to go to the government, sort of hat in hand begging to get exempt from this, should be a clear indication that something is amiss here. Something has gone terribly wrong. Why did the federal government get this power to make this decision affecting 310 million people, and there's really no recourse whatsoever? So there's something fundamentally gone wrong here. And that brings me to my next point, which is that it is a principle of Catholic teaching that decision-making authority should be located at the lowest level possible that is competent to do it, subsidiarity. And I very much agree, with the notion that this is a question that people of faith and consideration can come to different conclusions on. There can be great debates about how appropriately to organize societal questions in this arena. There is often lots of gray here, and great debates should take place around it. But my own judgment is that looking at the balance of what's happened in the healthcare law, that this is one manifestation of a general phenomenon of entirely too much delegation of healthcare power to one central bureaucracy, the Department of Health and Human Services. If you go through the healthcare law, there are so many secretary shalls in there, it would stun you. The secretary shall decide this, they shall decide that. There's a regulation coming out just about every 3 months, reorganizing various aspects of how healthcare is going to be run, and this is one of them. But there are many others. There are all kinds of things in there. There's things about how to run, how doctors and hospitals are going to actually be organized over time. They're heavily influencing how that's going to be changed over the next few years. There's all kinds of requirements about where you can buy insurance beginning in 2014. So, you know, I'm not here to relitigate all aspects of the healthcare debate, but it's very hard to see how, when you delegate so much power, so much authority to, let's be honest with ourselves, a federal government that is not, that has it has developed over the last at least half century a point of view that is secular in orientation and, you know, in some ways hostile to religious sentiment. If you delegate so much power and authority to that government to run various aspects of our lives in this manner, this kind of thing is going to happen. And you know, we should be very careful as we take this moment where people are focused, we've got the public's attention and focused on this. We should be very careful to return to first principles and make sure that whatever comes out of this is something that really protects our rights. Not something that gets us through the next 6 months, not something that, you know, gets the president reelected and he can, you know, move on and maybe reverse this later, but something that really protects people's rights and doesn't have the government impose such a awful, awful mandate. And that's going to take some work. And so I'm very hopeful that this moment that has obviously captured a lot of people's attention can be used to reorient what we need to do here, which is very fundamental. And I think with that I'll stop and turn it over to